Good evening. Tonight I'm going to cover an exercise I covered recently on some of the courses I ran around the world. I'm going to cover it because many people have emailed me asking me if I could cover and do a stream on the following exercise. I use this exercise reflecting on childhood memories with people I work with in corporation, high-flying athletes, world-class athletes, sports people in general looking to get freedom and a sense of awareness of their emotions and how their emotions are affecting them behaviorally. So it's a 9-step exercise I'm going to cover shortly. Now, the purpose of the exercise is to identify factors from our upbringing and childhood which have helped shape our current emotions and behavior. So throughout life we have a number of experiences, and these experiences tend to shape our reality. Nothing has meaning other than the minute we give it. So the exercise we're going to cover this evening is going to be a 9-step exercise. Now I wouldn't be too concerned if you struggle to follow the exercise. I'm going to work at a nice speed. The recording will be out, you can go over it again as often or as you want to. And the purpose of the exercise is for educational purposes only. Each person I work with is based on a case formulation, so I don't know where you are, what you look to achieve. But what I would say is, if you're a coach, you're a teacher, you're a trainer, you're a therapist, then it can be an extension of the skills that you already use. If you're a personal trainer, I think the key with all these exercises is to use them as an extension to your own remit. Now, it's quite a useful exercise, and if you'd like to get a pen and paper, feel free to do so. You get a pen and paper, and you can take notes, you can follow the process as we go along. That's entirely your call. If you just want to make a mental note, you can do that as well. Watch it back as often as you want to. Now, you might have an intellectual curiosity on what we mean by reflecting on childhood memories, or you might have an experiential curiosity, or a bit of both, or somewhere between, or one or the other. It's your call. Now, if you follow it and experience it, then it's quite useful for a learning point of view. If you just got an intellectual curiosity, what we're going to cover, then I'll guide you through the steps as we go along, which is quite a good exercise. So the first step in the 9 steps, we're going to dive straight in metaphorically because time is limited. But do feel free to email me if you've got any questions, comments, otherwise. I'm going to go and work at a nice speed because of time. Do feel free to email me. I can give you the handout. I can give you the background reading as well. I can give you some of the theory behind it. Minimize theory this evening because we've got a lot to cover in a short time. The first step that I would do, now bearing in mind in the 9 steps we're going to cover, you could bounce in and out of one or the other. There's no formal in the sense that you're going to go for each step accordingly. You could bounce from one step to the other, back to the other, back and forth, and that's okay to do that as well. It's not always going to run smooth in synchronicity, yet the steps are a guide to help us identify factors from our upbringing in childhood which have helped shape our current emotions and behavior. And our emotions are, it's almost like the fuel for the fire in behavior. And when we think about our emotions and how the quality of our emotions determines the quality of our life, and people do all sorts to suppress emotions, distractions, we've got loads of distractions this day and age to distract how we feel. And for simplicity, I'm going to bracket emotions, feelings, states all under one umbrella for simplicity this evening. Now, people have plenty of distractions they can use, and people do all sorts really. Emotional eaters, people react in various ways from their feeling, how emotionally they behave in a certain way. So let's say they were making redundancies at work, and you're in a good place emotionally, and you got the news they're making redundancies, then you're probably going to be in a better place to react to that situation than you would be if you're in a bad mood or if you're in an unresourceful state. Now, if you're walking down the street and you saw your friend and they didn't say hello to you, depending on your state, where you were emotionally, if you're in a good mood, then behaviorally you might text them and say, "Did you see me? How are you?" If you're in a negative state of mind, angry or frustrated, then you might respond to them immediately and personalize it and say, "Well, why didn't you bother to say hello? What's wrong with you?" Or you might have ignored them, or you might not return their call. We've all sent emails, I'm sure you have, and we all have, or sent texts that we regret. And we know that texts aren't always a great way to communicate, and neither is email, because it's quite a distorted channel of communication. And we all have done certain things impulsively. Now, what I would suggest, whenever we're going to react to anything, just give yourself time for the dust to settle. Now, going forward, the better place you are, and what the work I've done in corporation involves getting people to put their game hat on. Now, I wrote about that in one of my books. I talked about the human performance indicator in versus the KPI, the key performance indicator, where external attribution, where one of the first corporate jobs I did, I asked them what they wanted me to improve or help them improve, and they gave me a list of KPIs. Now, I didn't know what they were 15 years ago, but I took them home and studied them, and I had the realization they were external factors, external attribution, uncontrollable factors. A bit like we can't control in sport, we can't control the referee, we can't control the weather, we can't control the opposition, but we can control ourselves, our attitude, we can control our internal state, internal attribution. So I went back the following day and said, okay, these KPIs are important, a bit like a league table in sport, in golf, in football, in any sport we've got a league table. It's important to measure where we're up to, it's important to know and have some sort of indicators, yet if we focus too much on those, it's going to cause us a lot more stress than if we focus on what we can control the controllables. What we can control, I made the suggestion that we did a series of experiential exercises with the staff that involved internal attribution. What makes a good member of staff? When you're working really well, you're in the zone, you're confident, you're enthusiastic, you've got gratitude for the customer. And I sort of worked on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being high. I suggest that we get the staff to be 8 out of 10, with 10 being high, then the KPI would look after itself. So for example, you've got a personal trainer. If you see a personal trainer, you'd want them to be enthusiastic about your goals, you want them to be motivated to help, you'd want them to be grateful for you as a client. Same applies for a coach, you want them to be motivated, enthusiastic, and that would the same as a parent. There's no point telling your children, well, I'm not saying there's no point, yet if you're eating excessively, if you're drinking excessively, if you're smoking and having a go at your children for doing the same thing as well, then they're going to see what you do and put 2 and 2, so to speak. So from the point of view of staff, I suggest anyone go to that place first. So a teacher who thinks their students aren't motivated and moans about their students not being motivated, I'm now teaching a hard job, I've been a teacher myself, and I still teach now. It's not always easy, particularly in challenging environments, yet in saying that, for me, the teacher goes to that place of motivation. They go to the states, and by going to that state, then they've got a better chance to influence the students, pace them across to that state, rather than turning up one day and, hello everybody. And don't get me wrong, I have off days, and partly just because I was about being more emotionally aware. And being, when I say realistic, there's idealism and realism. We all have days we get up in the morning, we feel frustrated and angry, and not all these emotions like frustration, anger, are all bad in the sense that many people have done great things from these places of anger, sadness, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, people who have been Rosa Parks. They all use the fuel that burns the fire in a positive way, for positive change. And what I would say is we don't want to stay there for long, we just stay there in that state of mind. So someone who makes a change, they're going to implement a strategy, they're going to do something behaviorally that's fueled by a resourceful state. The initial fuel that burns the fire could be, you might put on weight, and I put on weight in the past, and I looked at myself in the mirror one time when I was working as a conditioning coach in top flight football and thought, I'm angry and upset with myself. And I did something about it. Now, to execute the behavior, then I had to go to a place of motivation, of confidence I could achieve it, of focus and dedication. Yeah, all that said and done, the fuel that burned the fire was the anger, frustration of getting myself in a situation where I let myself go, which can easily be done with any of us. So from that point of view, I'm implying that we want to be mindful of emotion, so we recognize the emotion as a knock on the door. So it's like knock, 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 the feeling, is a knock on the door, and rather than suppress the emotion, accept it. Now, for all you go-getters and goal-getters, acceptance isn't acquiescence or resignation. What I'm saying with acceptance is accept the feeling is there. Welcome it. If we stay in denial, we're not going to change a great deal, at least in my opinion. If we welcome the emotion and see it as a knock on the door, accept it's there, and we communicate with the emotion, then we can investigate and see what it's telling us. If we're not feeling good about something, there's a reason for it. And rather than suppress it, we can communicate with that. Now, people use various distractions, and don't get me wrong, I think that it's great to use the internet, and social media is great, and it's great to do a number of things, and being more mindful about how we're suppressing the emotion. And I'm not medically qualified, so I can't make any recommendations on medicine. I'm not going to. It's not my remit to talk about that. But what I would say, it would make a lot of sense to me to look at other ways. Like exercise can have an impact on how we feel, and endorphins, chemicals in the brain, going out, socializing, doing things that we can do, incrementally changing to help us, as well as obviously each person who, and if people are taking medication, it's based on no doubt a treatment plan, and I wouldn't make any advice or recommendations. But what I would say, and one thing that I've spoke to coaches and therapists about, is as well as if the person's going to go down that road, perhaps make suggestions that where it's appropriate and applicable, they can maybe do some exercise to affect endorphins in the brain, and walk around the lake, or going for a walk in the countryside. And all these things have proven scientifically now to make changes in the brain, and meditation. And one thing will work better for some people, and some things won't work as well for other people. So I'm not here to make any recommendations, but what I would say is that to explore, and the purpose really being is that let's not suppress and run away from the feeling or the emotion. Let's accept it's there, and sometimes this too shall pass. Sometimes it is what it is, and rather than fighting it, we may lay on the bed and relax, or listen to some music, or run a hot bath, or talk to a friend. And these are things we can do, because no storm lasts forever. It's going to pass eventually, and sometimes it is what it is. We're human beings. We're meant to feel, and we can look at things in a new way. We can look at our thought process around the emotion. So one of the things I do with my clients, I get them to explore the emotion and explore the thought that goes with the emotion. What are they thinking? And as a consequence, they can challenge the thought process, and by challenging the thought process, then they can restructure the way they see things. So for example, if the person walks down the street and the friend doesn't say hello, rather than say, well, they don't want to talk to me no more, they didn't let on, and I'm angry, I would ask them, what else could it be? Could it be they didn't see you? Could it be they were preoccupied? They might say, well, I went to work and they're having redundancies, I feel anxious, overwhelmed, I could be next. They may say that. Now, they may be true. They may be redundant, it may not be. Yet they could behave in a way that they could bang on the boss's door, they could email a scathing email at the boss, or they could have a go at other staff and start gossiping, and they could examine their thought process, and they could look at it differently. Maybe the boss was busy, preoccupied under pressure themselves, him or herself. So that's a bit of an insight there. So let's get back to the 9 steps, because we've got a lot to cover in short time. So the first step is think back to your childhood within your family home. Think of the emotions which were encouraged to be expressed, and make a note of them. You can write them down. Write a list of the emotions that back in your family home. That's step 1 in the exercise. Emotions could be afraid, it could be angry, it could be love, it could be trust. So whatever comes to mind, and for simplicity we'll bracket state, emotion and feelings all under one umbrella, and that's another story for another day. So step 1, think back to your childhood within your family home, and think of the emotions which were encouraged to be expressed, and make a note of them. Now if you can't think of any, or you can only think of 1 or 5 or 10, it's okay. It'll come to your mind. in due course. It's not a competition, and you might do the exercise again and you process it, and you might wake up in the morning next week, something might spark and you have a memory. Now, when we look at that now, consider the opposite. That was the emotions that you were very much forbidden to express or discouraged to express. So once again, it could be anger, frustration, happiness, excitement, okay? And it doesn't necessarily just be in your family home. I remember one time I was at school and I was in the line, you know, the queue before you go, you know, at school when you got the queue to go into the classroom. And we had a sports person, a famous sports person coming on to do a talk. And in my excitement as a young 10, 11-year-old, I was so excited about this sports person coming to do a talk at the school. And I couldn't contain myself. And I kept coming up the line. And a teacher said, "Don't get excited. What's wrong with you? Get back in the line," and blah, 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 blah. And it had an impact on me. Not a significant impact in the sense that I was okay. I got over it eventually, but what I'm saying is that in an environment, it doesn't necessarily just be at home. It could be your nuclear environment, school in general, your social environment, and so on and so forth. Now the first step is to list some emotions that your mum showed when you were growing up. If you didn't have a mum, a maternal figure in your life, or the carer, or the person who looked after you from a maternal point of view growing up, it could have been the auntie, it could have been grandma, it could have been a carer. But think of the emotions that your mum would show. You can write them down as well. And it doesn't be anything appropriate, applicable. For now, just let your mind run wild, and we'll go from there. The fourth step is to father. So think of the emotions that your father typically show. So your father, he may be an anxious person, a nervous person. He could show a happy person, you enjoy, and no doubt he may have showed all of them, and I guess that's your interpretation of what he showed as well. And it's quite interesting, really, going forward, that we tend to learn behaviour, and we tend to, from an emotional point of view, we tend to watch and model people. So the brain being quite implicit, where we start building connections between one thing or the other. So if you saw someone, for example, dad jump because he saw a spider on the floor 10 feet, then ultimately there's a chance, if a certain, specifically at a certain age in your life, and you've seen that you start building attachment to, from that point of view. But think about the emotions that mum and dad, or the paternal figure or maternal figure in your life showed. And now, what I'd like to do for the fifth step is think of the impact. Okay, the impact. So think of the impact that all of these had on you. So if you sort of think back to your childhood, in the family home, emotions that were encouraged, discouraged, emotions that mum did, or paternal figure did, think of how they had an impact on you, sort of impact. And I'm not going to sort of give you any examples, because I want you to think, and just take a moment to think and pause, and think about how they had an impact on you. And whilst you think about how they had an impact on you, before we move on to step 6, and move forward, I was working with someone one time, and they told me that when they were growing up, they loved the parents, both the mother and father. They loved both the same. They craved more the love of the mother, the approval of the mum, the validation. And from very young, this craving of the validation and approval of the mum, more than what they did of the dad. It was someone I worked with, this gentleman I'd worked with, And he would work really hard to be the person he thought the mum wanted him to be. And in his own mind, it was really never enough. And he worked so hard. And he felt in his mind that she didn't show the love and affection that he would have liked to have been shown based on the course of his life. And he became a striver, and a lot of what he did and his consistent striving. And then he projected it on other people too. Notably, he would go on to project it on females. So whenever he met a female, be it at work or business or in a personal relationship, he would do the very best he could to win the approval, win the validation. And he felt in his own mind, sometimes it would be enough, sometimes not enough. Sometimes he would just like bang his head against the wall, not know what he had to do. And when we sort of did this exercise and one or two other exercises as well as, he had this sort of realization that, okay, became aware some of the feelings. And there was almost like, to use his words, not mine, a vulnerability that he felt. This vulnerability of never being enough, no matter what he did. And this was like the brewing like a kettle, and the switch, and the switch on the kettle would go off whenever he was faced with similar situations, and he was when he was growing up. So I give you an idea. Now, I'm not suggesting or implying that's going to be the same for everybody in every situation. What I would say is, if we sort of look at it this way, from a biological imperative, we know that when the baby's born, the mum produces a chemical called oxytocin, and there's a very strong bond between the mother and child. Now, there's a spectrum, no doubt, and also in a biochemically functioning woman, some are going to produce more than others, and there's obviously going to be other factors that contribute towards the attachment too, but we sort of just run from a biological point of view. All things being well, all things not being well, that could be a factor as well as, and as a baby we need soothing. As a baby you need feeding, you need general human needs, but we also need cuddle and hug and soothing, and if we're not getting that soothing, then there's a very good chance that we strive to achieve that. But all that said and done, the oxytocin generally wears off after 2 years or so, and based on what I've read and my understanding, various journals and various studies I've done, now I'm not saying it's going to happen immediately at 2 years of age, but we could make the point that as and when it does happen, the baby gets to an age, and it may resonate with you, 2.5, 3 years of age, where in the past the baby could throw up all over the mum, and the mum, it can do no wrong, the baby. It can break the TV, the baby can do this, the baby can do that. Then eventually, maybe 2.5, 3 years of age, the baby for the first time gets told off. Now, that's not to say the mum doesn't love the baby as much as it loved the baby when the baby was born. The love will be there, sociologically and psychologically. The love will be there. Yet all that said and done, bearing in mind there's a spectrum, and bearing in mind that in life we have various experiences, psychologically and sociologically, the people around us have a big impact on how we think and feel, our social group, our family as well. And all things being well, statistically we've got a better chance of being more adaptive behaviorally if we're in an environment, we get the soothing, we get the love. Yet all that said and done, I always teach people compassion, because you didn't choose your parents if you didn't biologically have the parents who were facilitative of adaptive soothing behavior. If you didn't have the parents you were born into an environment you had loving people around you, it wouldn't have been your choice as a baby. So you could have been in the most loving environment for the first 2 years of your life, and then you could have been snatched by the local drug dealer who really wanted the baby, and then you were brought up in a very violent environment, and you were subjected to abuse and violence. As you go older, we no doubt it's going to shape your reality and the person you are. So compassion is important. Not to suggest that people don't do well in variable environments. They do, and one person can do well in one environment, one in the other, both, one or the other. It's okay. What I'm suggesting is statistically, as far as we know, based on a lot of research, the more loving the environment, the more soothing the environment, then generally speaking, the behavior is going to be more adaptive to variable situations. So moving forward, part 6 of the exercise that we're going to do is, so we were at the point where we talked about the impact that had on you, the behaviors from your childhood, the ones that were encouraged, discouraged, the ones you saw from your mum, your dad. Now part 6, identify a childhood memory or an experience that affected you in a negative way and still affects you now. So think of an experience in a negative way, okay? I told you about the experience that I had in the line at school when I drifted out of the line. I got told off by the teacher. And I work with people who've told me that they got told off and for not doing their homework. Go to the front of the classroom, you've not done your homework. And that underlying schema, that association they had with being in front of a group of people has then manifested when they've gone to do public speaking. So it can have an impact on us going forward. So think about, and you can't think of any impact as such, then just take the time. It's okay, you can come back to the exercise. But what we want to do is identify, and the person I mentioned before that I work with, he felt that the upbringing he had, the mum not showing him the love and compassion he would have liked to have had, or what he saw other young people have, at least subjectively, from what he could see. He didn't feel he had that. And as a result of not having that, he felt a sense of being deprived of that upbringing, being deprived of, he grew up in a family that he never received any gifts or never received any birthday or Christmas, or he never got the affection, the hug, or all these things he saw other young people have, and it affected him in his own mind. He thought at that point in a negative way. There were times he'd ruminate and stew over it and feel a sense of inadequacy. Now think of the memory or experiences that maybe affect you in a negative way, whatever that is. Okay. Now we can move on to the 7th stage of the exercise. This stage really is identify 2 emotions which you now use successfully in your life. Okay, 2 emotions that we've reflected on in this exercise so far that you use successfully now. So it could be joy, it could be happy, it could be surprise, it could be trust, it could be love, it could even be sadness, and the manifestation of sadness could have driven you to help other people who are suffering the way that you suffered. So that could be a positive. I once worked with someone who struggled as a teenager and had some very traumatic experience, and it was from that place he would go on and help people who suffered the same thing that he had suffered. But it could be joy, excitement, and it could be that whenever you deliver a presentation you feel a sense of excitement to give your message. So 2 emotions you successfully in your life. It could be joy around the family. You're a joyous person no matter how hard your day is. You come home and you have a cut-off point and you're in joy. It could be gratitude. It could be no matter what's going on in your life, you come from a place of gratitude. You're grateful for all the things that you have. And you've got a really high level of default. From a scale of 1 to 10, gratitude is really high up. You bounce. So I think of 2 emotions as well. And what we do now, the other part of the exercise, we go to the 8 part of the exercise. Think of how you learned. How did you learn to make the exercises of the feelings, the emotions? How did you learn to make an effective use of them? Maybe you saw someone else. Maybe you read a book and read a story of someone else and that really helped you a lot. Maybe someone in your family, perhaps you learned from experience, and you realize that, okay, you learn how to make good use. Maybe you felt a sense of healing from the sadness. That could be one thing. I know in my mind, some pivotal situations, even reading a book, and I read a book one time by Dr. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. You haven't read it, it's a great book to read. And cutting a long story short, Dr. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist, and he was in Nazi time in the concentration camps, and he experienced all sorts of atrocities. And he talked about the people who survived were the ones who had the meaning, and not the strongest ones, not the healthiest ones, not the most academic ones, the ones who had a meaning. And he talked about his desire to see his wife again when this atrocity had ended. And at the end of World War II, he was looking forward to, excited to see and reunite with his wife again, and he found out that she'd been killed in the concentration camp. And at that point, if my memory serves me correct, in the book, he talks about how he thought about maybe ending it too, but then he didn't. He decided he was going to utilize that to help understand how people could commit such atrocity. And in my words, not his words, he could help educate many other people. And what I took from reading that book was how, as a coach and therapist, giving people meaning for a certain situation they're going through, because nothing means anything other than the meaning we give it. So whatever they're going through, give it meaning. We can find some meaning in any situation. When we're going through tough times, we can find some meaning in it that will give us a better chance to actualize and to grow from that. So it's for reading a book, or you could have gone to a seminar and you had an experience and you had a realization. I've done many courses in my life and been to many seminars. And these stimulate realizations and actualizations. And you learn to make effective use of these feelings, and maybe someone suggested it. And for the final part, what you can do, and this is quite useful from a reflective point of view, you could apply the approach on the experience we talked about earlier that affects you in a negative way. So how can you reframe or turn that situation that you referred to in step 6, where you identify the childhood memory or experience which affected you in a negative way and still does now sometimes? How can you transition that and recognize that, accept what it is, investigate it, and look at it differently? How could you do what you've done? You've done it before, you can do it again. And I've worked with many people over many, many years to make that transition. So the guy I mentioned earlier who talked about wanting the perfect mum, at least the way he perceived a maternal person to be in his life, what we did and one of the learning experiences that he had, I suggested to him, would you be the person you are today? Would you be the phenomenal man you are today? You're a phenomenal parent, you're a phenomenal partner, you're a phenomenal business person. You give so much love and affection to many people. There's so much love and affection he gives to so many people. And that may have been a result of the experience he had with the mum growing up. It may not have been. One can't confirm that, it's hypothesis. But going forward now, to release him from the craving that still comes up every now and again, enough for him to ruminate and feel empty at certain times in his life, even though he's got a successful business, he's got the beautiful wife and beautiful children and all the things that anyone could wish for, no doubt. From that point of view, from the point of view of what he went for, he could release. And it's like the fizzy pop. If there was fizzy pop in here, I keep shaking it, eventually if you open, bang, it's going to go, and we can just gently release. and think how you could apply the approach. You've done it before automatically anyway. And to have compassion is important, because if we don't have compassion, generally what happens for people talk about the sink or swim approach. Now, for some people, you may push them a little bit more than you might push someone else from out of context, but from the sink or swim approach, and we can extend the comfort zone, and we can have compassion, because we know we don't have compassion, what's going to happen is that rather than just eating one, let's say you're on a weight reduction plan, and you eat one, and then you beat yourself up so much you think, I'm going to just eat the whole lot. You have compassion, you eat one, think, well, I'm not going to gain 4 stone overnight from eating one. It's okay. I felt like one, and I eat it. I'll stop at that. I'm in control. Compassion, soothing. It takes 2 to tango. Whatever situation you're in is not entirely down to you or your fault. One of the aims in Gestalt therapy, for example, is to increase present moment awareness so you can pay attention to your feelings. For example, some well-known Gestalt therapy techniques is letter writing. So in letter writing, you can dissociate, and journaling as well. So you can dissociate, like having the food in the fridge. So if you've got bad food in the fridge, it'll contaminate the other food. You can get it out of the fridge. And the theory behind the writing supports the expression of thoughts and experiences that could otherwise be inhibited. And the inhibition causes the rumination. It causes the stress and obsessive thinking. It's the fizzy pop and shaking the fizzy pop. So the theory in Gestalt being that actively writing and expressing the thoughts and experiences that could be suppressed inside. I mean, we can dissociate from the feeling and externalize the feeling and turn the feeling into a process, not a noun, not redundant, not I am angry, not I am frustrated, not I'm happy. So no one is unhappy or happy all the time. Night needs day needs nights. So whenever we're feeling anything, and we can build a map. So we don't want to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, identity. Even the most anxious person is not anxious all the time. What are they doing when they're anxious? What are they doing when they're down? What are they doing? And that's another story for another day, but turning it into process, because we're always changing, we're always growing. We're never redundant. We're never stagnant. We're always experiencing new things. And those new experiences that we have influenced by the perception of new experiences that we have, are influenced by the past. And we can't actively change the past. We can't go back in time. We can bring some of the problems that we had and experiences we've had in the past in the now. And that's the best chance to do something about it. Because if you have a memory as a 5-year-old, you could be behaving in the same way you did when you were 5, regressing, and you're not 5 no more. You've learned a lot in life. So when I did, for example, regression with this woman who had a fear of swimming, it was 8 years of age, she had that experience around swimming pool. When I did some regression with her, I guided her back to that experience, and we changed the perspective, changed the world. And she was able, after 56 years, you need a transcript, it was on BBC radio, she overcome. And I'm not suggesting it's going to work for everybody in every situation, but what I am implying is that we can grow academically, we can grow in more ways than one, but emotionally we can have these blockages. So just recapping now, because we sort of come towards the end of time, and please email me if you like, if you want any more information. So just to recap, remember the first step is to reflect back to your childhood in the family home. The emotions that you encouraged to express, you list them. The second part of the exercise, the opposite of that. So the opposite, so things that you discouraged, and you can write that down or suppressed, Then the third part you can do is make a note of the mum or maternal figure in your life, the emotions they typically showed. The fourth part you can do is the father or paternal figure. And then we can move on to the fifth part, and the fifth part being that you can identify a childhood memory or experience that affected you in a negative way, like the woman I mentioned, the swimming pool, the other one I mentioned, the presentation, the gentleman I mentioned, the affection he wanted to receive or didn't think he received from his mum and love and so on and so forth. And it still affects you now. And the sixth step of the exercise is to be able to identify two emotions that you successfully use in your life. And that could be excitement, joy, that you transition to in a positive way. And then once you've done that, you can start learning how to make effective use of these feelings. And you can start going forward thinking, okay, what's held me back in the past? Now I'm aware of it. I'm much more in tune. I understand. I am really, really aware of my emotion and my reaction to certain situations. And to cut a long story short, I was working with someone recently and she was adamant someone didn't like her. And I said, how do you know? That person doesn't like you. How do you know? And she said, I just know. How do you know that person doesn't like you? I just know. I just feel it. Now, for me, that's emotional reasoning. It's a distorted way of looking at reality. We don't ask the person. They might not like him. I don't know. Without asking that person, how do you know? Is it the way they look at you? Is it the tonality of what they say? Is it how they say what they say? It's something that they did behaviorally, the set of rules that they adhere to, and you believe they should behave differently. What is it? In adverse to making the generalization, the assumption. Because your behavior, what you do behaviorally is going to, how you feel emotionally about that person will impact your behavior. Now, if you realize that person really likes you or has affection for you, then you're probably going to behave differently back to them. Or maybe they don't really think of you in any way. They've got their own stuff to deal with. And so communicating is key, really important, because we know that life is ever changing and we're always evolving and always going forward. We can base our experiences on early experiences. So, okay, you could have been walking down the park and as a 5-year-old, a dog like this came running after you and tried to bite you. And equally, you might have a friend that had a dog like this that was the best friend. You might have another friend that had no association with the dog, and you and your friends are walking in the park 20 years later and you see a similar type of dog. And as you see the dog, one of you runs up, and the friend that had a dog like this, had a loving towards the dog, might run up and start stroking the dog. If you hadn't experienced that the dog tried to chase you, you have that association, and the person who had no experience may think, well, what's all the fuss about? Now, who's right, who's wrong? I guess it's all subjective to each and every one of your experiences. The brain's building a connection with the dog and the experience you had in the past. Now, that's not to say the dog's not going to bite you, yet you could avoid going to the park. Maybe you want to go to the park to play sport with your children, with your family. And this could apply to a lot of things. It may you want to do presentations for your work and you're being blocked by a feeling. It may be that you want a relationship but you're afraid of rejection, or you're afraid of pushing that person away or abandonment. It may be that you get a promotion at work and you get the label they call people these days, I think it's called imposter syndrome they use. Or maybe you're afraid of success and you push it away. I'm not suggesting implying any of those apply to you. It's just for them to exercise. So email me if you've got any questions, comments otherwise. I really enjoyed delivering this, and I said I would deliver it on the last seminar I did, and I've delivered it. So feel free to email me any comments, questions, otherwise if you liked it. Then you can share or watch it again if you found some use for it. If you want the pro forma, the sheet that goes with this, email me, I'll email you that. If you want some background theory behind it all, I can email you a little bit more theory. Thank you for watching. Have a great evening. It's a wonderful evening, and thanks for watching.